Yeah, I'll just the one thing I'll pick up on there is I thought that the way Spain set up was what we predicted, and I'm sure it's what Belgium expected. But I thought they brought good energy, even though they were happy for Belgium to have possession and what have you. I think in comparison, the first game of the day probably played out again like we were expecting. Argentina being quite settled behind the ball, not taking many risks. But I thought, for me, the difference between those two games was Argentina seemed to lack energy and lack purpose with the way they played. So there's one thing sitting back and falling away and waiting for your chances and what have you, but you've still got to have a real presence and sort of body language and energy to what you do. And I didn't see that as much from Argentina today, and would be interested with others' views.
Well, I think that fatigue is really is something. I think the recovery. If I look at my team, we had troubles in the Spain match, and that was because we couldn't recover well. Although we did everything what we should do, we tried many things, but still we were not recovered well. And I think that for a team as Argentina with many older players, it's even harder to recover well. And they went all out to make it to the quarterfinals. Each match was, well, a hard one, and they had to go deep to make it, to get there. So their recovery time was very short. They hardly have, they are older, so it takes longer time to recover. And I think that that's what you saw. But maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think.
I think they don't have any substitutions are Argentina, a bit similar to what they did in Rio. It is an ageing group, and I'll be interested to see what they have coming behind because there'll be guys retire, I'd expect, after these games. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But, yeah, I think that played a factor. I also think Germany's a very high-class team, and they're one of the, obviously one of the gold medal favourites with the other three teams that have got through right now. But I think the Germans are hitting their peak at the right time, and just were a bit too strong for Argentina. They have too much quality, I think. I think it's a good comment that Peter's written there as well about strong opposition and the higher levels of pressure. You alluded to it as well, about coming to a quarterfinal where you're heavily favoured to win. There's a lot of pressure. At the start of the tournament, we played against the Netherlands and Germany first up. We knew that if the result didn't go our way, we had other matches that we could win. You go into them with a good game plan, and I think the players play with a certain level of freedom. They want to show what they're capable to do. They're fresh. They're ready to go. Today it was a must-win game against a team that had nothing to lose, and they sat back. They knew what their strengths were on the counter. They thought they get some corners, they can score them, and made it really difficult for us. And the pressure certainly tells in those moments. I think what you'll see in the semi-finals is some teams freeing up a little bit and being able to play some higher quality hockey.
I think the thing that I get from you guys, obviously there, Siegfried and Adam, is that, and Peter's point is a really good one, is that it's not that the players would be struggling with fatigue. It's that this fatigue would be quite unusual for them. That it wouldn't be a factor that would be as normally prevalent had they had all of the competition and training as normal leading into this. And for an Australian style of play, which is so dependent on it, I think that's something they've got to try and find the right balance with. Would that be fair, do you reckon?
I think it's always a factor with the Australian team, and it has been in tournaments like World Cups and Olympic Games in the past. Certainly when I was playing, which is a long time ago. But there was, discussions then about, do we go too hard in the early rounds, and are we a bit tired towards the medal rounds? And do we need to have a variety of styles of play? I think that Colin and his group of coaches have been able to bring that to the Kookaburras. But obviously not having as much international competition may have affected them. But if you're talking about the European sides, we had the Euros, we had Pro League. We've played a whole season. I think we've had enough hockey. We just haven't had much experience playing in this this real heat and humidity.